Hey there and welcome back to another Dragon Prince video. And today I want to talk about the character of King Harrow, and more specifically, how he died. Now of course, ever since his supposed death, there have been multitudes of theories that have talked about how he managed to somehow avoid it. How he was swapped into his bird or a coin or whatnot. And therefore, he's technically alive. And that's not even getting started on Viren's alleged role within the whole fiasco. And so today, I want to dig a little deeper into the assassination of King Harrow and walk through some of the more popular theories as to what happened in the episode itself, whether these theories hold any substance, and what I think happened to King Harrow in the end. So we'll start off with the obvious. And when it comes to King Harrow, ultimately, there are two popular theories as to what happened to him. Besides just dying, that is. The first is that Viren actually did get around to using that body swap spell and swapped him into the bird. As the mind of a bird probably doesn't have a very good grasp on how to duel with a blade, he gets killed by the elves, the ribbon falls off the arm, capiche, dead, gone. But his mind lives on in the bird, and so he's technically still alive even if his body is dead. So that's one theory, and that would have actually been a pretty awesome idea. After all, isn't Ezran's whole shtick that he's the animal whisperer? Wouldn't it have been awesome if he eventually came across the bird and realized it was his dear departed dad after all? I mean, it would be a little bit weird, I guess, and kind of sad, but I think it would have been a neat little story point. But on the other hand, if they did go with this method of keeping him alive, they would have waited too long to reveal it. But heading into the 4th season, in my opinion, it wouldn't make sense to hold off on any sort of reveal for so long. For other sort of methods of survival, it would be understandable to keep it hidden away for season after season, waiting for that big reveal, letting it ripen up. But if this was the way, well, the moment has almost certainly passed. The right time for that type of reveal would have been when Ezran was overthrown and usurped. Because after a certain point, reveals like that become a little bit overripe. And this would have been one of them. Especially since you only need Ezran there for the initial reveal. Hell, they could have had the bird help him escape if that was the case. Now it's really nothing more than a missed opportunity. Even if they hadn't revealed it yet, you'd think that the story writers would have laid those hints if this was the case. But I'm pretty sure the bird flew off during season 1 and hasn't been seen again. And if he was dear old dad, let alone king, he'd be pretty neglectful to just fly off to do his own shit. And unfortunately, as cool as this theory is, it doesn't even matter in the end. Because after all of that theorizing and speculation, I'm pretty sure one of the creators came out and said that it was a false theory and that Harrow was not the bird and was just straight up dead. And man, that's a bit of a bummer. And I'm not saying that I really thought the theory was true or that it should be followed through on, but it's always sad when things get debunked via a statement or a tweet in the midst of the show's production. It's one thing if it's clearing up theories after the series has concluded forever. But I do think it's a bit poor form to do so in the middle of everybody enjoying themselves and having fun with theory and discussion. Anyway though, the other big theory that people have come up with to try and make sure Harrow lives another day is the coin theory, where Viren uses his nasty dark magic to seal him in a coin. And this theory does sort of fit in some respects. It is in Viren's MO, as we have seen, and he was indeed pretty angry at Harrow after their argument not long before the attack. And since he can be a vindictive and evil bastard, I wouldn't say it's out of character for him to just full on betray his supposed best friend / brother. I mean, once again, he did try to murder his sons and did depose one and steal the throne from him. With friends like that, who needs enemies, am I right? Plus, we see that the coins seem to be able to mask the life tracking spells. When Runan got coined, his little blinker thing in the pool in his village sank to the bottom, and therefore people were unable to tell that he was still alive because his light was obscured. Is it so out of the realm of possibility that Runan's able to take Harrow down and believes him to be dead, only for Viren to have somewhat healed him and then coined him? I'm pretty sure Viren's mostly unaccounted for during the battle, isn't he? So it isn't impossible that he managed to sneak in and do this, is it? And since we know that it can obscure a person from those elf tracker things, who's to say that it can't trick the armbands into thinking that Harrow is dead, thus leading the elves to believe that they actually managed to get the job done, or at least half done. And after all, when Runan was shown the coins by Viren and got a glimpse at his eventual fate, who's to say that he didn't see Harrow staring back at him, prompting his look of utter despair? After all, he sacrificed everything to kill this dude, and yet here he is, still alive, still kicking. and imprisoned in a coin, with him about to join him in there. I'd be pretty upset too. But then on the other hand, there are some massive counterpoints to this theory as well. The first of them, of course, being Runan would have had to been hit with the idiot stick to not have made sure that Harrow was actually dead. Like, that was his one job, kill Harrow. Imagine if he stuffed it up so horrendously. Plus, he did send off a message to the Dragon Queen, so I'm thinking he was surely correct in his assumption that Harrow was DEAD dead. And as for who Runan saw in the coins, well, realistically, it would make more sense to be Rayla's parents, wouldn't it? I mean, we know that these people knew each other, because they did leave her to be raised by him and his husband. Plus, they come from the same elf nation type? Dunno, what's the right word for that? The same group, and likely the same village at that. Plus, aren't Rayla's parents widely believed to be living in disgraced exile after they ran away from their duty? And their unjust imprisonment in coins would be much more likely to garner a visceral reaction from Runan than just seeing the king he thought he'd killed earlier on. By that point, I doubt he really cares if he sees Harrow still alive. He knows his life's over anyway. So, that leaves the question. What the hell happened with Harrow? Who was involved? Why did Viren not let anybody else in the room? What's going on here? So option A is that Harrow just straight up died in the battle. No plots, no spells, no nothing, just pushing up daisies. And as for why Viren didn't let anybody in or let his body be seen at the funeral, including Callum to see him before the battle, two options there. Kindness. Despite having quarrelled with Harrow, he still recognises Callum's a kid and should get to safety, which seems pretty unlikely considering he literally steals his voice and then insults him, and then his subsequent murderous and treasonous actions. Or maybe he was going to harvest Harrow's body parts for dark magic rituals. Now that feels more up his alley. Or, for some extra dank tinfoil, you could argue that he used dark magic to bring him back to life and then chucked him in a coin for that extra tasty betrayal. I mean, that's almost certainly not the case, but I guess it's not completely impossible either. So now we come to option B. Viren betrayed Harrow somehow in the midst of the battle, which resulted in Harrow's death. Either a spell to stop him moving or just full on attacking him. And I think that's a definite possibility, and what I personally lean towards believing might be true. I feel like that whole scene where Harrow quite brutally humbles Viren should be more than just a red herring to foreshadow that Viren's going to try and learn his place by stealing away the throne from his son. And I feel like a reveal of this caliber, Viren revealing to the sons that he totally sold their dad down the river, would be a good element to add to their eventual final meeting / confrontation. Kind of like when Scar confesses to Simba at the end of Lion King during their big one-on-one that he killed Mufasa. It would really help to enhance the drama, and if my theory about his involvement in the death of Queen Sarai is also true, it paints a picture of Viren's past actions that's much more consistent with the scheming, treacherous usurper that we see on screen. In my opinion, if the writers just leave it with Harrow dying in traditional battle and everything being true as it appeared so far, it would feel as though the story's kind of missed the mark for me. There's just so much we don't know, and I feel like there's got to be some sort of significant twist in the beginning of the downfall of Harrow's kingdom. From what was left unsaid between Harrow and Viren, Callum being refused to see his own stepdad before running away from literal assassins, Harrow's funeral not following royal tradition, and not seeing the battle at all. There's just so much mystery that follows traditional story reveal tropes that it's hard not to speculate and wonder what actually happened there. And I'll probably be thoroughly disappointed if he really was just terrible in fighting off the elves, and that was that. Quite anticlimactic, I think. But anyway though, that's all I really have to say. And since I've given you my thoughts, now I'd like to hear some of yours. What do you think truly happened to Harrow? Think there's more to it than meets the eye? Or do you think it's as straightforward as it's presented? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know.